So this is the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Recipient Workshop. And from 9:15 to 9:45 this morning, I'll be going over some very general program updates. My name is Justin Knutson. I'm the Federal Programs Team Lead here at IFA IEDA. I replaced Nicole Hansen in November of last year. Kind of get into that more a little later on in this, kind of the changes we've made both with that and then just with the organization. But really, this has been on three main things. So just the status on the update of our funds from HUD, just a few very general reminders and tips about the CDBG program as you go through it, and just kind of an update on some upcoming programs that are out there and notices that we're working on that you should expect some guidance on here in the future. Just an overview for the schedule for today. So from 10 to 10:45, the water and sewer and community facilities will be handled by Dan and Katie. We'll do from 11 to 11:45 the upper story rehab with Joyce and Ed. Take a little bit of a lunch break there in between, and then regather at 1:15 for the downtown revitalization with Sarah and Ed, and then finish at 2:30 or finish around 3:15 with the neighborhood revitalization planning, and that's Joyce and Ed. So just a reminder to everyone that the Community Development Block Grant is funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Really, the goal of the program is to develop viable communities by providing decent housing and suitable living environments and expanding economic opportunities principally for persons of low and moderate income. This is the state's only program for non-entitlement communities, and each of our projects has to meet one of three national objectives. That's to benefit the low and moderate income, the elimination of slum and blight, and to address an urgent need. This slide here just gives you an idea of the awards we've made so far in 2023. It won't include, we're currently working on some water and sewer awards as we speak here, and should have those out in the, let's say the next few weeks or month. But again, just kind of an overview of what we've done so far. So the update on the status of our funds, as you can see, we expect from HUD this year to get $24.6 million in CDBG funds. That's just slightly less than we got last year, and even lesser still than we received in 2021. So it seems to be trending a little bit downward. Hopefully we turn that around next year. And so the status of those funds, as you're probably aware, each year we have to put together an annual action plan that we submit to HUD, basically outlining how we plan on using our funds, what programs we plan to do to distribute them to. We held a public hearing on our action plan on the 19th of April. We did not get any public comments, so we went ahead and submitted that plan to HUD on the 27th of April. HUD then will have 45 days to review it and provide us any comments or feedback on it. Hoping we don't get any, or we get very minimal, that we can correct fairly quickly. And so if that's the case, we estimate that the approval from HUD on these funds will come in early June. Likely, though, we won't get the actual funds to hit our books until after that, but hoping to at least get some agreements from HUD in place by then. I think everyone's probably seen this slide at one point or another. It's just the projected distribution of funds, or how we plan on using those HUD funds for our programs this year. This is unchanged from last year. We have not made any changes from 2022. Don't expect that we will make any changes. Potentially next year we'll take a look at it and see if those percentages still make sense. But for the time being, I would just plan on it remaining the same. So now just to some tips and kind of overview on our CDBG program as you work through it. I think the first and most important is just really to utilize the management guide that we have out there. I included a link here to where it sits on our website. That should always be the most current version and the one you should grab when you need it. It is really our expectation that that you folks will use that management guide as your primary resource tool. So, if you run into any problems or issues, first place you should do is jump out and grab that, take a look at it, see if you can get your issue or question addressed through that. If you can, then it would certainly be appropriate to reach out to our project managers, understanding that, like every organization right now, we're doing a lot of work with a little bit of people. So hopefully they get back to you quickly, but could be tied up doing site visits or whatnot. So again, really just important to try and hit that management guide first. You may also use the breakout sessions today to check with that project manager on any program specific requirements that there might be for your specific program. Really just a reminder too on the grant administration policy. I think everyone on this call probably has gone through the training or is at least aware of the grant administrator training. Just a reminder to stay fully certified. It's our expectation that you attend training and be in good standing. And I just, from our management guide, through a few examples of what it means to be in good standing. This isn't all of them, but just grabbed a few that would kind of fit on the page there. But as you can see, it's really very simple things like responding timely to requests and updates from the IEDA staff, submitting your draw requests at least every 6 months for each activity in each CDBG project, completing monitoring visits with no findings and issues, or issues that can really be easily remediated within 30 days of the final monitoring report. And really just generally just not committing any action that would lead IEDA to initiate decertification. I think in my time here, I've only had to send one email to someone that had a good standing violation. So it doesn't happen very often, but if it does, you'll get an email likely from me. I think in that case, it was just someone that really just didn't respond to a series of requests we had. There were many of them, so it wasn't a one-off. Hopefully does not ever happen, but this is just an overview of what happens if you do happen to have to go down that decertification process. Grant administrators that accumulate 3 good standing violations in a 2-year period will be placed on probation for a year. And then any violations that happen after that year or during that year be documented and would ultimately end that probationary period and start a decertification process. And if the grant administrator is decertified, then it would be in effect for 2 years, and all of their projects would have to be transferred to another grant administrator. The decertified grant administrator would then be required to attend a certification training and pass the exam again to become certified. So really, again, hopefully it never happens. Just really be mindful of the good standing policy. We obviously don't want to see anyone have to be decertified and the work it takes to deal with that. A little update on monitoring. So IEDA will monitor administrative performance based on 4 categories. So the overall knowledge of and compliance with CDBG requirements, timeliness, responsiveness, and project monitoring performance. Obviously, we would notify any administrator or agency with issues we had concerning or issues we found during monitoring. And monitoring at a minimum will happen at least once, and that could be at a desk monitoring or in person. And again, at minimum, it would be scheduled at 50% of completion of construction or 50% of the funds drawn down. We also do a risk-based assessment, which is completed annually and to determine the timing and the frequency of monitoring. So we use things like a financial risk or how large is the grant, submitted draws or our claims on schedule as outlined in the contract, Program management and capacity. So is the administrator familiar with CDBG regulations and have they attended the trainings? And compliance. So does the project adhere to all the federal and state rules and regulations? And so the results of this assessment could mean more frequent monitoring or monitoring sooner in the project. Just three quick reminders here, just general kind of CDBG reminders. So first, timeliness is definitely critical. Project draws must be submitted every 6 months. That's both activity and administration. Is started, every draw must include a request for activity and administration funds. Secondly, as it relates to affirmatively furthering fair housing, every CDBG recipient must complete at least 2 mandatory actions and 1 elective activity, and that's included in the contract you sign with IEDA. The list of those mandatory and elective activities can be found in our management guide. And finally, just recipients need to complete the status of funding activities or SOFA hearing at 50% of the project completion, and that no draws will be processed until documentation of that hearing is uploaded to Iowa Grants. And again, the list of requirements for that public hearing is included in our management guide. So jumping out to just some updates on our programs here. I think everyone is probably aware of the CVE funds we received. So the state received 3 allocations totaling around $31 million. As of about the middle of April, we've obligated almost 30 million of that and expended about 10. If you are involved in this program, I think Sarah sent an email last week just notifying everyone that HUD has removed that expenditure, 80% expenditure deadline by the end of July. I think that was good news, but then it also kind of, we were scrambling to figure out how we would best administer that here at the state. And so Sarah really came up with a couple of categories that you might be in and how to deal with that. I will just kind of go over very high level what those are. But again, I think you should have gotten an email if you were involved, kind of breaking it down a little bit more. So the first category here is 3 buckets, really. It's if you're in the bucket of you've already submitted your final draw. In that case, a contract extension won't be necessary. The second bucket is if the scope of work or your scope of work will be completed by May 31st of this year. In that case as well, a contract extension wouldn't be necessary. And just to give you an idea, I won't read through it all, but you can kind of see what defines the scope of work. I'm going to take a look and decide if that's you. In that case, all project invoices must be dated on or before the 31st. And so long as the site visit is complete and the work has been performed and invoiced by the 31st, the final claim submission can take place up to 60 days after the contract end date. And then the last bucket in this category is if your 1-year extension amendment's already been submitted. So if you're in the case of a city or county that's already submitted a contract amendment in Iowa Grants on or after the 9th of January, under IDA's expenditure deadline policy, then a new amendment would not be necessary. The second category is really just a catch-all for everything that is not Category A. So it's really all the other scenarios. And in this category, we just decided that it would be the city or county's decision on how long that extension would be. And so it's either a 1, 2-year, or 3-year extension with the end date being May 31st of either 2024, 25, or 26. Just a heads up that the contracts won't automatically be extended, and so that you got to go out and proactively request that extension by submitting a contract amendment in Iowa Grants and then having it approved by IEDA. And really, we ask that you be thoughtful in that request. Obviously, we don't want folks sitting on these funds for 3 years, but definitely understand that everyone's project is a little unique. So really just take some time and think about what is the what is the lowest amount of extension you need that would really get your project completed? I think that's ultimately what we're trying to achieve there. Another new notice we've been made aware of that you might be familiar with, but is worth passing along is HUD's notified us of the Buy America, Build America Act, which was enacted as part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of November 2021 and establishes the Buy America preference on steel, iron manufactured products and construction materials used in covered infrastructure projects. And those must be produced in the United States under this act. And as you can see from my graphic there, it will apply to regular CDBG, but does not apply to disaster or CDBG. Just to drill down a little bit more on what it entails. So it includes all materials used in construction. So metals, plastic, glass, lumber, drywall, and material that's primarily composed of iron and steel. It does not include cement and aggregates like stone, sand, and gravel. So the big question is, when does it apply, or when will we start really looking at this? The notice relays that it applies to the funds obligated on or after November 15th of 2022 and uses the definition of obligation as the date that the state received the signed agreement from the CPD field office director. So in 2022, we received our grant agreement from HUD in September, obviously before the November 15th obligation date. But as we talked about earlier, we expect our 23 funds will be our grant agreement for our 23 funds will be signed in June of this year, so that any funds we award using those any awards we make using those funds will this will apply. And really what we're still kind of getting together some training and notices on that we can get out. So don't have anything yet, but be aware that it's coming. I pulled this from the Cascada website. It's just kind of a helpful graphic. You might want to jump out, take a look at it. It just breaks it down. It does a good job breaking it down. I thought it's, as you can kind of see the flow chart here. So if the CDBG funds are obligated on or after the 15th of November, if it's an infrastructure or housing project greater than 250,000, if it's construction, alteration, maintenance, or repair using iron or steel, and it is not a CDBG, DR, MIT, or CV funded source, then the Buy America, Build American Act would apply. However, there are some project eligible or project specific waivers that you might be eligible for. And just kind of getting to that, my caveat is that HUD has relayed that they are still working on what specifically those waivers, what that process for requesting those waivers are. We are looking for more guidance from them on how that'll work. So once we have that, we can obviously notify everyone on that. But just very generally, there are three types of project waivers that they've indicated they might allow, and that's the first is a public interest waiver. So where the Buy American Act would be inconsistent with public interest. Second would be a non-availability of any covered materials that are not produced in the U.S. or in sufficient and reasonable, or are not sufficient or reasonably available quantities or of satisfactory quality. And the third would be if there is an unreasonable cost. And so any domestically produced covered materials will increase the cost of an overall project by more than 25%. So again, just really, we're kind of at the beginning of this. We're looking into it, trying to get some more guidance out to everyone as soon as we can get it. Just wanted to end here with, like I mentioned earlier, just a few of the staff changes and kind of the organizational changes that happened here at IFO over the last 6 months. So when Nicole left, I had previously overseen our state programs, and half of the CDBG or half of the HUD-funded program, so home, the National Housing Trust Fund, the decision was made to combine to carve out those state funds and give them to a different supervisor and really put together all of the HUD-funded programs, so CDBG, Home, National Housing Trust Fund, ESG, and HOPWA, just to kind of align with how HUD sets up their community planning organization. And really, we did it for a couple of reasons. One, again, to just kind of help align with how HUD administers their programs, but two, just really to take advantage and maximize the efficiencies that we can here at our agency. I know, as I said, we're kind of down individuals like everyone else, and so this allows a few examples of how we've been able to maximize that. I know Jacob, who does our CDBG Section 3, kind of the guru there, has been able to help our home and housing trust fund individuals working those programs really take a load off them by helping with some of that. Our legal team, now we just have one point of contact for all our HUD programs generally, and that's been very helpful to get answers more quickly and streamline them. And our our claims process kind of backed up a little bit, and we were able to grab a couple of our individuals to help with our home and housing trust fund programs, as well as our ESG program, to help process some of the CDBG claims so that we can move those along more quickly. So just a few examples of how that's really kind of helped streamline some of the work here. The other update I think I'd give everyone is, and you may already be familiar, but Ed, our wonderful and helpful Ed Bash, is retiring in July, much to our dismay. I think we're going to try as hard as we can to get him to stay. I don't think that'll work. So I would plan on Ed being gone in early July, but we are working now to try and get his position posted so that we can have someone in place to step in as soon as Ed goes. So that's really all I have. Ed reminded me before I started this, and I forgot to remind everyone, if you had questions, to throw them in the chat and we can address them here at the end. Maybe you already did that, but if you want, you can jump out and throw them out there now, and be happy to address them.
I don't see anything.
Well, okay. We appreciate everyone jumping on for these trainings. If you have any questions, thoughts, feel free to reach out to myself or really any of the projects managers here, and we'll try and get back to you as quick as we can. Thanks, everyone.